Right. Well, we should be live according to the wonders of YouTube Studio. YouTube Studio, of course, as is traditional, being somewhat unusable potentially. We may have to do a little bit of audio balancing as we go along, but while we wait to determine whether or not that will be necessary, we will, of course, turn to the chat and say, hello, chat. How are you out there, you wonderful chatly of chatliest people? Why is top chat on? Just YouTube, please cease. Live chat. There we go. We need to be able to see and know exactly what everyone is saying. Most important question, of course, there being what's up. Well, what's up is we're playing Chaos Gate, Daemonhunters, the new one, because apparently we can't just create new names for IPs and things. We have to only use pre-existing IP names rather than coming up with something new and original, because we've got to try and, I don't know, I guess, live off of the goodwill of the old Chaos Gate, which I didn't play very much of. I think I only played it like once or twice because a friend of mine had the disc, so I didn't get to experience it very much. But what I remember of it, it was rather good. It was basically, well, it was the XCOM of its time. Of course, XCOM was also the XCOM of its time, back when they were these 2D isometric... When I say 2D, like all the assets were 2D and whatnot, but the sort of top-down way of doing things, and Chaos Gate was basically one of those. And it's back, apparently, because why not? It's great. I've got to say, I've been quite enjoying it thus far. I think the audio looks about right. We might have to take it down a little bit on their end. Oh, lordy lord. Let's see if I remember. No, I don't think we want it at 0. Maybe, yeah, 5, 6? I'm trying to sort of work out where the peaking is. But there are things that you will need to hear in the game as well. So, perhaps a little awkward. Just maybe about there. We'll work it out as we get into it, I am sure. So I think we should just dive on in, continue a game, and see what happens. Well, more correctly, not see what happens. Continue onwards with the glory of punching Xenos in the face. Because the cool thing about this game is it is very much about punching Xenos in the face, because ranged combat in this game, a little less useful than in the previous one that I remember, because you are, of course, the wonders of the Grey Knights. You have a lot of force weaponry, you've got a lot of nice big swords and axes and stuff, which I really rather enjoy. You can see your rosters within the barracks. It's all, lots of very large, powerful Terminator armor-clad Grey Knights, and I've got to say I quite enjoy seeing Grey Knights somewhat brought to life in a game, especially having a game that focuses very heavily on them. I feel like Grey Knights don't get very much focus in a lot of other games. I'm trying to remember if there's been any other 40k games which have had Grey Knights in them. I remember they showed up as a unit in the first Dawn of War game, but it was very much a sort of end game style unit. You couldn't get them very early on, and I think you were capped to only one of them. I'm struggling to think if there were Grey Knights in any other game. No, I don't think there were, actually. They might show up in... I can't remember the name of the game, which I'm trying to think of. It's not Gladius. It's the chess-like one. They might show up in that, but they don't get very much game time, which is a little disappointing. And I've got to say, having a game that focuses very heavily on the Grey Knights is very nice, because it means you get to use a lot of psychic abilities and all that sort of stuff. And psychic abilities, they're kind of cool, really. There's a very interesting question in chat. How many 40k games are there? There's a ton on Steam. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of 40k games, and they go back a very, very long time. Unfortunately, most of them are not very good, because Games Workshop has this weird habit of how do I want to say it? They've got this weird habit of giving their license to unusual choices of studio. Like there's been some very unusual games which have come out in the 40k thing, some of which are basically just reskinned mobile games, like actually just straight up reskins of things, and they've been very questionable in their quality, but every so often you get ones like this which come out and are actually pretty damn good, I've got to say. Mechanically anyway, there's a few choice, unusual things regarding the art direction of this game which I'm not too fond of. One of which I've got to say is the faces.
Let us commune to defeat our foe.
Like the faces and some of the animations, like the in-ship stuff like this, which is sort of your kind of hub area deciding what you're going to do. Some of them is a little bit questionable, to say the least. I've got to say, some of these, the face models for some of these characters reminds me very much of Blizzard games.
The Baleful Edict is a large ship, Commander, and yet your presence is always here.
Quite. And when I say they look like sort of Blizzard-style things, I'm thinking World of Warcraft quality after they decided to do that thing where they upped the resolution of some of their models, and it, you'd think saying that your art department and stuff like that is on a similar level to Blizzard would be a compliment. In this particular circumstance, no, it is not. It's not a compliment at all. It's this sort of weird, cartoony, everything slightly out of proportion, which I am not a fan of. But I've got to say, that really is kind of a subjective taste thing. Like, some people like it, some people don't. I'm one of the people who really does not. Fortunately, you have the option to cover the faces of all of your Marines, so you don't actually ever have to look at them, because if you did ever decide to remove the helmets of these people, you would see... Oh, we need to get rid of your headgear so we can actually witness the fate. You would see it's, yes, some of these faces are... I mean, let's just say the original Dark Souls, I think, had better faces than some of the ones which they've come up with for this. Like I said, it's... We're looking at, like, new updated Blizzard style of doing things. They're not good. Let's just keep the helmets on, this way you never have to look at them. And there's, again, some slightly questionable things looking at, like, the tech priest design and whatnot.
Analyze all possible outcomes of this exchange, but you may proceed.
Yes. I've got to say, much as I do love Mechanicus and anything related to the Mechanicus, again, the design of this, very cool in some ways, but you'll see if we ever get into some cutscenes regarding this game. This little circlet thing that she's wearing around her head raises and lowers like a set of eyebrows, which is a very interesting aesthetic choice for this game, given that the Mechanicus is all about effectively removing the humanity from their people because they aspire to the purity of the blessed machine, and so creating a mechanical part of your face that is there to do the same thing that a human face does, to provide facial expressions, which is a very human thing, seems very antithetical to the general creed and ethos of the Mechanicus. But again, we're kind of getting bogged down in some of the things that don't so much matter, which is just this slight aesthetic style, which it's a heavily stylized way of doing things. Some of it I really like, some of it I really don't. The bits which I don't like is basically facial expressions and some of the cutscene animations, but when you get into the game, doesn't matter, the gameplay is still great. So I guess we're just going to leap on into some of this. I suppose, well, we're actually gearing up for a boss battle, so I'm sure this will be wonderful and nothing bad will happen at all. Someone in chat is saying it is good to hear from me and see that the current state of the world hasn't gotten the better of you. How do you know, chat? How do you know I'm not just here trying to escape from the horrors of the world? Because as we all well know, the horrors of the warp are far better and more enjoyable than the horrors of the real world, which I think says something for the state of the world that we're in. Have I heard of the latest news from your fair homeland of the phenomenon of Sweden Gate? Yes. I lolled heartily when I heard the tale of Sweden Gate. I may knock the volume of this game down a little bit. It's the peaks on some of the sound bits are looking a little high for my liking.
Commander, I bring troubling news. An entire inquisitorial research.
Yes, pardon me, Grandmaster. I need to just change the volume a little bit. You may continue now.
Expedition was afflicted with a psychic mucoid infection while seeking evidence for this morbus theory. The affliction spread rapidly throughout.
Pardon me again, Grandmaster. I need to put the stream chat back onto the screen. Oh, there we go, Grandmaster Kai. You may continue now.
Time our brothers arrived, it became necessary to purge all hands.
A psychic assault on the Inquisition, Grandmaster. We could not have anticipated.
At ease, Hector. The damage was contained. I suspect this was not a direct attack, but a defensive reaction against their intrusion. In the interest of caution, I am restricting the use of prognosticars in your sector until we can be certain their wards are reconsecrated against further psychic interference. Commander, what say you?
Well, this is a wonderful part of this game, before we get on to the topic of Sweden Gate. This is a wonderful little part of this game. Every so often, when you're cruising around the section in your colossal warship, you get these cool little questionnaire sort of quest things where you get to decide what some of your guys are going to be doing. Sending off all of the members of your ship, of your crew, to go and do things can have detrimental effects, but it can also be very beneficial for you. You just kind of work with it as you go. So we have a choice. As you can see, we can send 4 of our knights away. That means we won't be able to deploy them for things, but they will do things. We can commit to glorious deeds, which is a game mechanic we'll probably talk about shortly. Or we can send our Inquisitor to go and investigate, who is our research member on our team. I'm probably just going to send the Inquisitor to deal with this because, frankly, I don't like the Inquisitor in this game. She is obnoxious and generally annoying, and I feel like it feels like it's leaning into the strong, empowered woman trope, whereby companies try to make strong female characters, but in doing so they just end up making them incredibly unlikable, just generally passive-aggressive and irritating, as opposed to the Tech Priest, who is also a female character, who is completely fine and actually behaves like all of the other characters. Like, they do things for a reason, they have their own goals, but they're just not an absolute arrogant prick about everything that they're doing. So like, we'll send our Inquisitor to sod off and go and do something for a while.
Is better spent on the edict investigating the.
An excellent notion. We're all demon hunters after all, aren't we, Inquisitor? I will send what coordinates I can to your astropaths. Purge what you find there, without hesitation.
This is a task more fitting for your battle brothers, but I will not shirk in my duty.
Mark my words, this affront will be met with immediate action. I am sending a strike force of my own brotherhood, the Sword Bearers, to join you. Together, we will purify the sector and finish this holy work.
A fully outfitted strike force will be a tremendous boon.
Finally, it seems we will get the support we need. Let us hope it is not too late.
Yes, quite. Ooh, we get to pick some upgrades for potential loot. Well, I know what I want. I want big melee weapons to be able to smack the crap out of things. And I suppose we should probably actually upgrade some other things while we're at it as well. Go, let's go. Now we have to go and do the demon fighting boss thing, because why the hell not? Right, as someone in the chat notices, they don't know very much about 40k lore beyond the basics. You watch Luton09's video on the Grey Knights, they seem OP. It's like they're Space Marine, it's like they're two Space Marines, what Space Marines are to everyone else. Yes, kind of. The Grey Knights are, their gene seed is traced back directly to the Emperor himself. Every single one within the Legion of Grey Knights has psychic powers to some degree. Not a single one of them has ever fallen to chaos or committed any act of heresy. So they are pretty damn cool. They're also this sort of slightly unusual chapter in regards to the Imperium structure, because they're not part of the normal Astartes lineup. They're basically the militant arm of the Ordo Malleus, which is the Daemonhunters. So they're kind of like what the Death Watch is to the Ordo Xenos. They're the militant arm of that particular branch of the government, which of course means that they are very small and quite... yeah, basically just very small. Game sound is a fraction of mine, oh dear. I can jump it up a little bit, I'm just very mindful of it being too much louder. That may work a little better. Yeah, actually, let's just put that slider all the way up. It might be okay if I do that. There we go. Attempting to get the balance right is never an easy task, I'm afraid.
This Reaper tends to the Tentarus strain. The Codex calls it Munificus the Undying.
Undying. We shall have to put that title to the test.
You sound almost eager, Ektar. I like this new tinge of bloodlust. It makes you sound almost...
Human.
What? Is that so terrible a thing to contemplate?
My augmented genetics are a gift from the Emperor. Were I raised a simple human...
Oh, simple, am I? I should have known where my natural genetics would rank me in your esteem.
You accuse me of intolerance? That's plenty ripe coming from you.
Intervention. The Astartes and the Inquisition both exist to serve humanity.
You are quite right, Dominus. Inquisitor, you have my apologies. The chapter's training is singularly pragmatic. If I came off crudely, I regret it.
No, the fault is mine. Compared to the endless scheming and bootlicking of the Administratum, your unfailing bluntness is refreshing. Let us move forward, united, and destroy this Reaper.
Yes. This is one thing which I do quite like about this game. They do put quite a lot of lore dumps into it, which is very good for people who are a little less familiar with the general world of things. The dialogue is quite quiet still compared to other sounds. We may be able to change that. Trying to get it better. We can take the music volume down probably by quite a lot, because frankly the music is not that relevant to things. And keep sound effects and dialogue quite high. Maybe up the master volume. It's a little annoying that you just go in increments of 10. Yeah, we can put it about there. This might work out a little better. We basically just take the music volume right down, because it's... music is nice in the game, but it's definitely not essential. But dialogue and sound effects are far more useful. But yes, we do get quite a few lore dumps in this game, which is quite nice. Some of them are very nice in that they do give you a lot of world building and sort of help you understand the Imperium and whatnot, sort of what the Grey Knights are, what the Mechanicus is, what the Inquisition is. It sort of really fills in a lot of the gaps for people who may be a little less familiar with the 40k lore. But some of the way that they phrase some of it is just kind of like, I'm sorry, what? To give one example of the I'm sorry, what kind of moments, there was a moment in time where Ektar, our battle brother, general advisor, Grey Knight dude, we were having a conversation with him, and he mentioned that the tech priest, Lynette, who is this other character over here, had served with the ship, which is the Baleful Edict, which is the ship that we're on, since the time of one of the previously mentioned Grey Knights. And you, as the commander of this vessel, then had the wonderful idea of the little speech bubble saying, but that would make her like 500 years old. It's like, yes, you dumbass. Come on, high-ranking tech priests are effectively borderline immortal because of how much of their body is replaced by a machine. They're kind of like Space Marines like that, in that Space Marines are, well, the immortality or relative immortality of Space Marines changes depending on the fluff. Back in, like, first and second edition, it was like, oh yeah, they'll live to be like 100 or 200 years old, maybe up to 300. But then, as the fluff became more and more in depth and things became more and more ridiculous, it was basically like, oh yeah, Space Marines can just live like thousands of years. They're kind of basically just biologically immortal because of all the genetic stuff and organ changes and potential for mechanical swapping bits out of themselves and whatnot, and basically they're destined to die in battle and never of old age or anything like that. So yeah, little sort of odd like that. But again, you'd think that the character, which is you, the person sort of charged with running this campaign against the chaos, you'd think like you would know these sorts of things. Like, I understand that it has to be written in such a way as to be accessible to sort of newer players and people who perhaps don't understand the lore, but every so often some of the options you pick will have your character say things which are blindingly stupid given the contexts that you're in. Anyway, let's go and punch some demons in the face, because why the hell not? As chat does correctly note, tech priests are barely human. Correct. If they are at very high ranks anyway, they effectively cease being human. Lower ranked ones, not so much. But yeah, once you really get up there, it's kind of like, yeah, there's basically no humanity left in them anymore, which is quite wonderful. Alright, let's gear up and do all of this stuff. I believe some people were asking me about the wonderful thing of Sweden Gate, which I suppose we can talk about a little bit. My knowledge of the Sweden Gate topic is somewhat limited in the fact that I am aware of it, but have not been following it hugely closely. My general awareness of it is that it was started by some people complaining about Swedish hospitality on the Twitter sphere, noting that, like, if you're a guest at someone's house, like, they remember not being invited to dinner even though they were there at the time. So, like, the family and their friend went and had dinner while they just left the guest in a room by themselves, and they were like, I still think about it to this day. God damn it, Sweden's so racist and weird. It's like, okay. I mean, first of all, did that happen? I have no idea whether or not it did or not. But yeah, like, little stories like this coming out, and people are just like, oh, Sweden is this horrible, racist, intolerant country because they have certain, perhaps, cultural differences that you aren't aware of. And this apparently just means that they're evil, racist, white supremacist, blah, 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 blah. I mean, the entire thing of, like, trying to cancel the nation of Sweden because they perhaps have a different culture to the one that you came from. Every time I hear things like this, all I think is, okay, why are you there then? Why did you move there? Like, if you're going to go to a country, it would be like, okay, like, you'd think if you wanted to move to a country, you'd try to learn a little something about the culture there and be like, oh, they have this social norm, or they have these holidays, or these particular quirks. Maybe I should know about these sorts of things and, you know, act accordingly. Or maybe it was a case of someone living in one of the more sort of poverty, either areas of higher poverty or some of the more remote areas. Like, I know Sweden, Norway, Finland and whatnot have these very sort of isolated, like, not quite fishing or hunting villages, but basically, but not quite, where resources come in and out very, very infrequently. I know you've got similar things in, like, Canada and Alaska and places like that, where even Siberia and some bits of northern Russia, where there's these sort of small towns and villages and whatnot where basically a load of stuff comes in by truck every so many weeks or months, and then you may go for weeks or months with like no outside contact, and so sometimes people have different norms about like giving things away for nothing because resources might be a little more sort of scarce and you don't know when things are going to come in and whatnot. It's not that they're like, you know, being rude or selfish or something like that. It's just having to prioritize things differently because it's a different environment. And so it's like if you're somewhere where it's like, oh, winter is coming and we're probably going to have 6 foot of snow next week, we can't really empty the pantry this week because that would be dumb and probably result in killing all of us. You know, things like that. Like, I don't know a goddamn thing about the circumstance, but I can think of plenty of reasons why some of these circumstances would come up or not, as the case may be. So yeah, it's interesting that basically a bunch of racist non-white people are trying to cancel Sweden for existing. It's a real shame, but like, yeah. Part of me just looks at that and thinks again, why are you there? Why did you go there? If you don't like it, leave. But another part of me looks at this happening to Sweden and just thinks, you know, Sweden, you brought it on yourself. Like, you tried to be this wonderful, progressive, utopian haven for the entirety of the world, and now it's biting you in the arse. I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, we're supposed to be picking these dudes out and giving them arms and armor, and we're going to go and slay possibly a greater demon of something or other, because the murder of demons is always acceptable and generally enjoyable. Yes, we're going to spam a lot of Justicars. We're going to talk about some abilities, I suppose. We should probably do that, actually, talk about abilities and what all of these dudes are and things that you may need to understand so that you actually understand what the hell I'm doing. You have a variety of knights. Your knights come in 8 different classes. You have 4 baseline classes, which are Justicars, Purgators, Interceptors, and Apothecaries, and then you get 4 advanced classes, Purifiers, Librarians, Chapters, and Paladins. Each one of them has a slightly different role that they play in the game. Some of them are fairly self-explanatory, such as Librarians, who are Psychers, because of course they are, and Chaplains, who are your shouty religious guys, because of course they are. And this game functions on an action point system, which is why you find fielding Justicars quite a lot is very effective, because Justicars have this wonderful ability of basically giving all of your other guys extra action points, because they have abilities such as these, which is spend some willpower, which is basically your psychic ability, so as to give action points, which is the ability to move, shoot, attack, whatever, to other people. But you can also multiply it. So for instance, you can see we cast 1 action point to give another knight 2 action points. We can even overcharge it to give them 3 action points. And so we can effectively provide more action points than we would otherwise have. And there are also wonderful mechanics in this game where critting people gives you the potential to get extra action points with cool execution moves, which I'm sure we'll see a little bit in combat as we go on. So you, sir, we need to give you some cool weapons. And we should probably give you some cool armor as well. Yes. There we go, that's quite wonderful. Do we want to bring the chaplain along? We may want to swap him out for something. I think I might swap him out for the librarian, actually. You don't even have any grenades, so you having that is kind of pointless. Yeah, Vortimer doesn't need anything, he's our chaplain. Paladin, because he's not going to be here. He doesn't need fancy armor. Who is in the team? Vaughn, Elgon, and Travan. So we need to try and work out the armor that isn't on those people. But this is the only one we've got, which is grenade armor. We should probably give the grenade armor to someone who's actually going to be fielding grenades. Yes, we'll field you with some grenades, I think. I'm going to go with frag. I normally like to go with stun grenades because they're very useful. Because they give you the potential to execute guys, which gives your entire team additional action points, and action points are the thing that makes everything go around. Yeah. Sacred Incense, so you have willpower, so you can cast all the buffs that you cast, because you're an apothecary and you buff people for some reason. Librarian for spell powers and death. You need to change your sword for something else. That would be really useful. Can we upgrade it? Yes! I can upgrade it to have extra crits against demons. That will actually be very useful. It'd be nice if we could get that upgrade, but I don't have the resources to upgrade that. That's a little annoying. Can we give you a better force sword? That's got good crits, though. I'll go with the 5 damage sword, just because damage is so important in this game. Because every single little extra point matters so much. Yeah, we could upgrade that for crits. Oh, damn it. Biomancies lasting for 1 extra turn would be so freaking good. Biomancies are basically temporary buffs that apothecaries give to your guys, and they are very overpowered. We'll go with that just to break armor. Breaking armor is exceptionally useful. Why do we not have stratagems for this mission? Oh yes, of course, our prognosticar is offline. And I think our... Yeah, that's a shame we're not going to have access to stratagems. Stratagems are really cool. They're basically like cards that you play throughout your rounds that give your guys buffs and whatnot, so it's kind of cool. Alright. Well, let's, I suppose, have a little chat with chat quickly before we get on into this. Actually, there is something I would like to ask the chat quickly before we proceed with this. And that is, I'm just sort of looking at the live stream actual page thing. And I've noticed something about the live stream options, and that is the chat appears in the box, the window by the side of the live stream, and it stays there after the live stream is done. Which technically means me putting the chat onto the screen is not entirely necessary, because it may actually cover up elements of the game that you sort of need to see. Like, for instance, I open this, you can't actually really see the armament details because chat is over the top of it. So, chat, would you actually like to be on the game screen, or would you like me to hide the chat on the screen and you just have the chat in the box after the video? Or in the chat box after the live stream, because it gets saved to the live stream. I've sort of always gone back and forth on this, but the more I think about it, the more I just think, well, the live chat is saved by default anyway on YouTube. It's but there's just always this slight part of me that's a little bit paranoid, that's like, oh, hang on, if I were to do that, or if YouTube suddenly changed its mind and was like, oh yeah, we're actually getting rid of the chat thing, because screw you, I guess. YouTube has to make their their sight just generally worse. Yeah, chat seems to be a little divided as well, like... Yes, your stream, your aesthetic, your choice. Yes, but equally I am doing this for you, the audience, and so, you know, me, it ain't just all about me, it's all about you, stranger, you're the person watching. The box sounds more reasonable, but you like the screen, someone else likes the screen. One person hates them, it's like, no, get it off, Chat on screen doesn't bother you, it's easy to know the time between when you write and when you... Okay, well, chat seems to enjoy being on the screen, we'll leave you on the screen then, I guess the intrusion into the real estate is not too bad for some people then. That's fine. What have people in the chat been saying in the time that I've been wittering on about things that are completely pointless? Food is the precious in the north. Ah, yes, of course, we were talking about that. Someone is having chai tea mixed with Vadam. I don't know what that is. It sounds quite nice, though. I'm an Imperium of Man guy, Teal. Yes, I am. Well, yes. I mean, I have a Tyranid army as well, but Dark Angels are kind of the main army which I've got, but man, I want to build me a good squat army. I miss the squats. Squats were great. They should come back, because they were just cool. Someone enjoys middle-of-game explanations of mechanics. Oh, there's a lot to be explaining in this game. Don't worry, I'm sure I'm going to witter on a lot and bore the ever-loving hell out of you with it. Have you ever considered doing anything with the Lotus Eaters, folks, Mr. Hirsch? No. Why would I do that? That would require me to do things with other people, and I cannot be bothered to do that. I just do my own thing. I'm happy working on my own schedule as it is. I have no particular desire to bend to the whims of others. Alright, let's go punch demons in the face, I guess. Yes, there are other explanations, but I'm not going into them, chat. It's fine.
Designation Chaos Spawn.
Oh joy, Chaos Spawn, wonderful. Yeah, wonderful,
Analysis.
great. Yeah.
No apparent defensive systems.
Is it possible this Reaper was somehow stillborn? Brothers,
Okay,
be
this is
wary
where you
of
get to
your-
learn a little bit about this game, and you realise that it's basically XCOM, but with a 40k skin. It's actually great. So you get your guys, you have your certain number of action points here, which is the number of things that you can do. You have willpower, which is basically your ability to cast spells, but also do other special actions, like all of the things that you have down here. You have infinity number of melee attacks, because they don't require ranged things. And you have HP, which is very, very cool, because that lets you know when you're about to die, or not, as the case may be. So pretty similar to XCOM, you can expend your action points to move around. As you can see, this is basically one move, so the little counter in your mouse is 2 remaining action points if you were to remove there. That indicates that you've got 1 at the time of ending moving, and that will indicate 0 at the time of ending moving. So you can sort of see it's a fairly standard action point-based way of doing things. I was a little confused by this game initially when it came to shooting things, because you basically toggle in to ranged mode and toggle in and out of it. So you see the amount of ammo that you've got there when you're toggled into ranged attacks, as opposed to being in the default move and melee, which I'm not a huge fan of that. It's just like, look, just make this part of the UI a little bit longer here, so that you can just have the ammo counter there. Like, there's more than enough real estate for the UI. Just do that. Trust me, it'll be great. Like, if you really need to move this over a little bit, you can just make this portrait a little bit smaller here. Like, the portrait here doesn't add very much. It's just, it looks really cool. I've got to say, I do like the art style when it comes to some of the armor, but you could totally just make a slight better use of that real estate. So one thing you're probably going to see as we go through this is the importance of action points and the ability to turn your guys into action point shitting machines via the use of stunning guys to execute them to get your action points back, and the use of Honor the Chapter, which allows you to transfer action points and generally allows your guys to do things. Every so often there is very cool little things on the map such as these, Bloom Spawn Spores, which you can extract seeds from. Seeds are a currency that you use to do things like research and upgrade your gear. And it also returns your willpower for some slightly unusual reason. Don't question why that is. Right, let's get into some combat and show you how it works. So, this is a Chaos Spawn, as you can see, Munificus. It has a name, of course it does. It is demonic, which means if you have a weapon which does bonus damage to demonic stuff, you will get that. There are certain abilities that will work on certain things. You can see demonic, mechanical, or organic. Certain weapons do certain extra damage to certain categories of things. It's all very, very standard like that. Health is self-explanatory, move self-explanatory. Vulnerabilities, armor, resistances, these things are all fairly self-explanatory. This is the most important mechanic in the entire game. Stun. This is the number of hits that a unit takes before it becomes stunned. Stunned basically means that the guy ends up taking a knee. And when they take the knee, you get to do critical damage to them. And doing critical damage to them pulls up a nice little radial menu. And when you get into that menu, you can do really cool things like cut off parts of their body, or potentially execute them. And execution is a wonderful, wonderful thing because that gives you the very, very cool things such as extra action points. So we're probably just going to use our librarian to teleport our way over here and effectively gangbang this guy into oblivion. So let's teleport over there. We'll warp charge our teleportation. So rather than just teleporting my librarian, we will warp charge, which will teleport all of our knights. This will increase the warp surge risk because using any psychic abilities will increase the warp surge. The warp surge is basically a not countdown to oblivion, but countdown to the forces of chaos doing something on the planet. Whether that's opening up rifts to summon extra enemies into the map, applying a buff to existing enemy units, or a debuff to your units. And of course, using your psychic abilities causes that bar to fill up quicker, so it's kind of a payoff thing, a sort of trade-off. The more psychic abilities you use, the more warp disturbances that you cause in the local area, the more bad things can potentially happen. But equally, using your warp abilities, your psychic abilities, endows your abilities with greater power, and so you can do more things, either more damage or better, or slightly altering how the abilities work. So let's just teleport our dudes over here, and we will begin the murder. So, you can see this guy has 6 points in order to stun him. This is the most important mechanic of this game, far and away. So this guy, if he hits him, you'll see it will just do 1 stun damage will be done to him, which is why that's going down to 5. You will do a certain amount of damage, which you can see is put up there. This thing has several potential reactions to being hit. Now, it's a little annoying that these aren't sort of on by default. You can't really sort of see what they are by mousing over them. That one, as far as I remember, is parrying, which is the potential for it to negate all melee damage. That, I think, is mutate, which means when it's hit, it will do something. Whether that is getting some HP back, or potentially getting armor, or something like that. Yes, I know, if I spent time explaining those stuff, I would have probably killed the thing already, yes. But this is very interesting and very important, and I like people to know what the hell is going on. Yes, this is, yes, mutating. this is fine because we can sort this out. So, Apothecary, if you use your Iron Arm ability, which will put extra stun damage onto this guy. So put that buff onto our Librarian, who is about to smack the crap out of this thing. And you can see, instead of doing 1 stun damage, we're now taking it down to 3, which means smacky smacky. And this is the radial menu I was talking about when you crit things. This is very important because this, as you can see, allows you to prevent enemies from using certain abilities. More importantly, you can also do it to increase stun damage. Now, the increased stun damage is very important because that lets you get into the potential of downing them, like taking them to the knee, at which point you can basically execute them.
The beast exhibits instantaneous regeneration.
Thank you, Lynette. That doesn't matter, because we're going to hit it again, completely stun it.
Ready your blades and strike.
So now that that thing is on the yellow thing there, it is very vulnerable.
I'm here to serve.
Which means we can attack it, and we will get our menu. Now, on some enemies, you get a little box here which pops up which says execute, and when that happens, you just instantly kill them. Obviously, this is a boss, so we're not going to do that. So the target loses 2 maximum HP. This looks like it's going to be the way that we have to kill it, because it, well, seems like it's just going to constantly get its HP back. So it looks like this is a fight where we're just going to have to wear down the max HP slowly over time so as to kill it that way. Which is somewhat annoying, because that means that it's going to be a long, slow fight. It does make me wonder if some of these other things are going to have anything to do with killing it, because sometimes, or in the last boss fight, there were things that you had to kill around the arena in order to weaken it. That may or may not be the case here. So let's commence the stunning. That's only going to do 1 stun, so we might as well just hit it with a sword instead. But since we've got Iron Arm on our Librarian, let's honour the chapter instead, and just keep giving our Librarian the ability to have more action points, because that way we are going to ramp up our stun even faster. This thing looks sexy in a disgusting way. Oh, chat, you horrible, horrible people. Why would you say such things? Are we really just going to have to do it like this? The target loses 2 maximum HP. Is this how we're going to have to kill it? Because if that's the case, we're going to have to basically crowd control this thing into oblivion. Which is going to be very... yes, difficult. Makes me wish I'd brought my paladin along, or my chaplain, so that we could give my guys extra willpower, so that we can keep casting things like Honor the Chapter. Mathematically, I shouldn't be using the stun ability on this thing, actually. I should probably be disabling it for when its turn happens.
That's it, brothers.
Update. The limb has transformed into pure bloom essence.
Brothers, watch out for those bloom spawn.
Oh dear. Okay. Yes, the mechanics of this fight are obviously unusual compared to some of the other things, but that's somewhat to be expected because it is a boss fight after all. And boss fights have to be special.
You have been judged.
And apparently this thing is just going to leap around the arena and be a general pain in the arse. Which unfortunately would seem to indicate that teleporting on top of it is perhaps not the best idea. Now, okay, we may have to do a little more arena control in this particular mission.
I was you. I am the Emperor's fury.
Yes, correct. Someone is not a fan of erotic things unless it's humanoid. I'd be careful with that. That's sounding a little bit more like a sort of weird furry kind of stuff. I wouldn't be going that way if I were you, friendo. It's Tyrannid. It doesn't look absolutely pusculous. You might be doing it wrong. No, this thing is not Tyrannid. This thing is Chaos. All of the enemies in this game are Nurgle, except for the ones which are Khorne. Everything is Chaos in this game. It's not actually Tyrannid. I can see why you might think that, seeing the some of the little doodads and whatnot around the map. But actually, all of this stuff is Chaos in this game. It's all Nurgle, which is why everything is sort of mutated and weird. Other than that, some people are referencing the wonders of black anality and academic homoliteratica. Yes, those were things that happened.
Yes, the beast is mutated from the blue.
Let me
We should
rephrase.
divine
Specifically
its strength
human,
more thoroughly.
yes. It's not humanoid. That's human, definitely human. You want to be sticking with human for this. You don't want to be going just straight humanoid with your enjoyment of things. Yeah, I guess we're just going to have to cut body parts off of this thing until it dies, it seems. Seems to be the way of doing this particular mission. It's a little different from previous ones. That's fine, we can work around this. Keep hacking limbs off of it, it'll die eventually. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm kind of happy that I brought my librarian along, because I think we're going to have to do a lot of teleportation to stay on top of him and keep critting this thing to death.
My focus failed me. My strength
Teleport everyone over there. Do it. Go. Hello. You can't leap away from us. Just don't even try, my dude.
My blue is Commander. Standing ready. Trust that what might beyond reason.
More iron arms equals more stuns, equals more crits, equals more killing. Let's go.
Status update. The Reaper appears unable to regenerate its limbs.
Yes.
You hear that, brothers? Press the advantage. Destroy this monster.
Okay, so we're basically going dead space on this. Yeah. Cut off the limbs! All of the limbs. Okay, so if we can stun that thing one more time, we may be able to get a hit on it again to cut the limb off this turn. Like, basically, this entire game is effectively managing AP and stun attacks. That seems to be the way of doing it. We could stun it with that, but do we have any follow-up potential? Yes, we do if we honor the chapter again. Which we may have to do. This is where you find out that Honor the Chapter is basically the most overpowered ability in this game. Because you're just like, yep, more action points, more action points, just keep doing things, go. Honor the Chapter. Give this guy 2 more action points so he can cut off another limb from this thing. It's just... This is why every single match that I'm in this is basically just bring Justicars, spam abilities that let you have action points. Oh! Yes, this is... I don't know why I expected something other than this. Wonderful. Yeah, it just seems to be getting bigger and more angry the more stuff I do to it. That's fine. Finally, after all of this stuff, I think our enemy might actually get a turn. Oh no, we got a crit, which means we get more action points. Yes, of course. You can see there's a lot of action point juggling in this game, but it's very successful when you do it right. And when you work it out, it gets very satisfying clearing out entire groups of enemies with just a couple of guys once you learn how to make it work. Oh dear. This thing appears to be angry with us for some reason. I can't imagine why. As someone in chat is correctly noting, the correct response to furries is blast it with fire. Yes, that is the correct response and exactly what you should be doing every time. Can we iron biomancy some more guys? Yes, we can. Bigger crits, more cutting stuff off, more murder, more death. More kill. It's going to be quite enjoyable. Trust me, you'll like it. It doesn't matter that you've got this big stun bar. You're still going to get, you know, you're going to get downed and then hacked to death. Because of course you are. You see? Now, it doesn't have any more limbs left as far as I know, so surely that means that we can just execute it to death. Oh no, we have to do the -2 max HP thing to death, maybe. There we go. Wait, no, yes, no. Game hasn't decided yet.
Was an unworthy epithet. Well done, Commander.
The celebration can come later, Purifier. We must recover that prime seed.
Concordance. Extraction process initiated.
Yes. And this is why managing AP is far and away the most important thing in this game. When we do another normal mission, you'll see that even more, a lot with the execution ability. And how great and wonderful that thing is. You played Space Wolf on iOS for years. This looks like an expansion for that. It is, in some ways, yes, in how it plays. I do remember the Space Wolf game. It was that sort of turn-based, small squad thing. Yeah, it is, there are quite a few similarities to it. Ooh, a fancy storm shield. I do rather enjoy the concept of a fancy storm shield. We will get to the fancy storm shield just because I want it. Give it to our guy who uses storm shields and he will be very happy. You might get to see the Mechanicus weird eyebrow thing in this cutscene and why it annoys me.
Another strain is halted, and we now possess a second prime seed.
I admit, this path has succeeded. Yet these rituals are clearly taking a toll on you.
Update. I have performed a biodiagnostic on the Inquisitor. She remains within acceptable thresholds.
For now.
I am not some lab specimen. My exposure is a small price to defeat this enemy. Let us keep focused on the immediate threat.
Agreed.
Consensus. The Omnissiah rewards our aggression.
I am ready.
Yes, I'm sure you noticed it a little bit there, that sort of weird eyebrow circlet thing. I still don't understand why that was a design choice. I mean, I get it because it allows for facial expression, but Mechanicus don't have facial expressions. They're not supposed to. That's human stuff. That's not machine stuff. It's weird. Did someone say a no-no word? Your word did not appear in the chat. Well, let me tell you about that chat. Obviously you did, because Susan knows better. YouTube knows better than you. Ah yes, Thule, I remember this guy. I'm actually attempting to murder this guy. This Thule guy. Because the way that this game does one mechanic, it's a very strange mechanic, and it's one that I don't particularly like. And that is, if you ever want to respec any of the abilities from your guys, they have to commune. And as you can see, Stasis Chamber required commune with your fallen brothers to earn additional ability points or reset and choose new abilities. Which basically means, if you ever want to respec one of these guys, you have to kill another one of your own dudes in order to do that. Which means you have to kill them however many times it takes to get this resilience down to 0. Which you can see for this guy is 6. Now I'm trying to kill this guy because I don't very much like the Purgator class. I find them to be very underwhelming in this game. But, yeah, like having to kill your own guy 6 times is a little bit ridiculous in order to access the ability to respec one of your dudes. Frankly, it's law-breakingly stupid. Like, oh hey, Thule, would you mind going and standing next to those explosive barrels while I throw grenades at you until you die? Because our chaplain over here, well, he came preloaded with some abilities that I don't actually like or use. So, yeah, you need to be turned into kibble so that he can commune with your spirit in the ship, so that he can forget an ability that he already learned. Is that cool, bro? Broseph, Broheim, Broseiden? It's just kind of like, what? Why is this a mechanic for this game? It's a little bit silly, and I really wish that they would alter it at some point, because it's frankly ridiculous. Oh, look, there are chaos ships that we're just going to float around because they mean nothing to us until we wait for the next mission to show up.
I hear good news, Commander. Another Reaper sent screaming back to the warp. It seems your elevation...
Excellent. The chapter approves of my action because I am purging chaos in a filthy way.
Ektar, your alert has disrupted my essential meditations.
We have important tidings.
I can already sense Nurgle's corruption. There is something foul at work. There.
Curious. We have only just had word from Grandmaster Kai. The prognosticars on Titan have augured the advent of a dire omen in that very system. They spoke of a black edifice, a vortex of foul malevolence.
Preliminary estimation. Nocturith crown.
The Eldari Avatar warned me of this. 5 charred gates in a putrid orchard. Then the Morbus will come.
The Xenos are not to be trusted.
The enemy of my enemy, Ektar. I detected no malefic intentions. We should not forget that the Plague God despoiled their home. Commander, let us be clear. If we do not investigate this threat, the consequences will be dire.
I just noticed her pupils do this really weird huge dilation thing when she blinks. This just contributes to my general dislike of the facial animations in this game. They are really rather not good. Yes, Morbus is basically the end game thing. If all 5 of these things get filled, it basically means you lose the game to Nurgle. So we should probably go and deal with that. We're going to have to shoot our way through some chaos on the way, but that's not a problem.
Alert. Enemy vessel has a fixed
Oh
grapple.
no, grappling lines. If only we were a ship full of grey knights.
Denial. Flagship proximity will cause catastrophic.
Clever. Within this group,
Cogitating. Localized.
damaging our warp drive is less risky than opening fire.
Confirmed.
Huh. Okay. I love that our tech priest, whose only concern is the safety of the ship and everything like that, is like, yeah, just blow up your warp drive. This will be fine. Okay, you know what? Let's detonate the warp drive. Screw it. Go. You're the tech priest. I will listen to you. Sure. Yes, it worked for some reasons. I'm not going to question the ways of the tech priests. This is just they know what they're doing, so screw it.
Alert. Warp storms barrage the Edict's surface.
That's fine. We have the advanced Geller field. It means nothing. If only Geller fields existed for a reason, like stopping the warp from screwing with your ship. Right, let's do this mission. Oh, yes, of course, because this is one of these flowering missions. That means we get to take the Inquisitor with us. Yay, the Inquisitor. Oh, joy, wonderful, blech. Okay, sure, why not? We can do this. Alright, we may want to swap out a Justicar for something else, potentially. I may want to bring along our Paladin, who is quite fun sometimes. But Justicars do give us the extra action points. I'm trying to remember sort of what these missions end up looking like, these particular Chaos Gate ritual missions. And whether bringing a librarian along is actually the best thing. I might swap the librarian out. Although the librarian does have the autistic screech ability, which does a lot of stun damage, which is really rather nice. It's a tough thing. Yes, there is a team building screen, which I like this particular screen, especially when you've got the Inquisitor in the middle. It just kind of reminds me of that, the meme screen that goes around of that small white girl with the 4 black guys around it, because it's part of one of those weird interracial fetish porn things, but that particular photograph is like a meme tier on the internet. So it just every time I see this, I'm just like, yeah, that's basically the meme. That's pretty much where that's going. I would imagine that Rule 34 has already been made on the internet because, of course it has. The internet is a horrible, degenerate place like that. Yes, blowing up part of your ship. This sounds sane and not at all perilous in the vacuum of space. Don't worry about it. When you're a space marine, the vacuum of space does not bother you, especially if you're wearing armor. It's absolutely fine. Yes, the casting couch meme. Don't worry, you will not be able to unsee it. Now that idea has been planted in your mind, it's there. That's it. Just it will be there forever, unfortunately. Oh dear. Sometimes the degeneracy comes to you, chat. Don't worry about it. Alright, let's swap our librarian for... maybe a chaplain might be okay, because our chaplain does have the Litany of Hate, which means we get extra action points when we execute things. And our chaplain does need to level up, so maybe we will bring the chaplain. Yeah, let's bring the chaplain. I think this will do well. Oh dear, someone keeps getting shadow banned from things. Yes, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do about that, I'm afraid. It's, YouTube is a very, very censorious platform. It's one reason why I kind of encourage people away from it as much as I can.
Something calls
It's not
beyond, Ektar. The
yeah,
gates of
it's only
chaos
getting
open.
worse,
The
frankly.
future unravels. Humanity in ruins.
Inquisitor Vakir, you are an agent of the Ordo Malleus. Chaos cannot...
And also one thing
No.
which I would like to
No,
tell
it will
people,
not. I
I
am the instrument of the Emperor's will. I will wreck
something
the
which I
vile
discovered
edifice with
earlier
my
this
bare
week, which
hands
I've
if I
yet
must.
to verify completely, but I have seen photographs of Susan Wiki speaking at a World Economic Forum event. I don't know whether that was the WEF event which is happening this week, or whether it was from a previous year, but if it's happening this week, if it's that one, then, well, that tells you a lot about the direction that YouTube is going to be going in. There's going to be a lot more censorious in the future. It's going to get worse. Because if she's on board with that general agenda, and why the hell wouldn't she be, then, yeah, things are going to get worse. You're going to be a lot more limited in things that you can say on this platform. It's probably going to get to the point where, oh, hang on, you're publishing a video about food shortages, which are objectively happening because look at the price of things and how many food processing plants have mysteriously caught fire in the last 12 months. I'm sorry, you're not allowed to talk about that on our platform. You're banned now, I'm afraid, because that's just a conspiracy theory. Because Reuters said so. You know, that Reuters thing where they were like, well, yes, actually all of these food processing plants have burned down and been destroyed in the last few months. But because we can't identify one solid organization that's responsible for all of them with the intent of causing food shortages, that means that food shortages are just a conspiracy theory and aren't going to happen. Get debunked on, scrub. That is, of course, the Reuters, which is on the World Economic Forum's list.
Yes,
You know, it's one of their partner organization initiative things, but remember, there's nothing to see here, citizen. Just go about your day. Don't ask questions. None of this is relevant or important or in any way suspicious. Just don't ask questions. It's all fine. There's nothing that you need to notice or think about here. Just stop paying attention. Don't notice things. Don't think about things. It's, you know, it's all good. Just, you know, chill out, man. Just chill. You gotta be relaxed about all of this stuff.
Yes, sir.
It's all very tiresomely predictable, I'm going to
I
say.
was already planning that.
You just found the meme and you can't unsee it. I'm sorry that I put that in your mind, chat, but it's somewhat unavoidable, I'm afraid.
I sense the enemy converging.
Yes, chat. Posso was not arrested. Posso, I can't remember how you're supposed to pronounce his name. He was not arrested for questioning the World Economic Forum's police force. Because as we all know, the World Economic Forum doesn't have a police
What is
force.
your will?
You know, it might be a police force that has a World Economic Forum badge
Yes,
on their arm, and it's a police force that is loaned out to the World Economic Forum by the country that they're in, which is branded to the World Economic Forum and taking marching orders directly from the World Economic Forum. But that doesn't mean that they're World Economic Forum police, you see? It's totally different. And therefore
Firing on target.
debunked, right? Because something being branded for an organization, taking their marching orders from that organization, is totally different from the organization controlling them and them being part of the organization. You see? It's all very different. Stop noticing things. Don't pay attention. Don't question what we're doing or why it's happening. Ah, this thing appears to be unstunnable. That's rather a nuisance.
On the way.
We're going to have to just kill it the old-fashioned way, I guess.
Feel the bite of my sword!
Someone quit Odyssey when they beamed your favourite channel. Who got banned from Odyssey? And more importantly, how did you get banned from Odyssey? Like, I'm actually genuinely slightly impressed by that. Like, what happened in order to make someone be removed from Odyssey as a platform? I have never heard of that happening. How, why, when, which? How is such a thing even possible? Or have they not disclosed the reason why, or the thought process behind?
Yes, Commander.
I've just noticed I did this in the wrong order. I need my chaplain to be getting kills so that he gets the EXP for this mission. He's one level away from max and we need to do it. And I also need to do another mission with Tool to get him killed so that I can restore my chaplain to base level and get the abilities that I actually want him to have.
At once. Chaos stirs within the shadows.
Yes. It's funny that there would be chaos in this game in which you fight chaos, but I'm glad you noticed. Thank you, brother.
Yes, Commander.
It takes effort to be banned from BitChute as well. I'm not so sure, chap. Keep in mind, BitChute is, as far as I'm aware, a UK-based company, which means they do have to abide by some of the slightly more draconian rules regarding free expression that we have in this country, so... all I will say about BitChute is be wary and your mileage may vary according to how free you're going to be on it. Ah, excellent. A dreadnought. You can execute dreadnoughts in this game, and it's wonderful.
I'm concentrating. Yes.
Ah, damn it, we didn't get our AP back. Sometimes when you pop pods in this game, you get, all your guys get their AP maxed out again. And this did not happen that time. I'm a little confused by this.
I sense the enemy approaches.
Little knights.
You need some white pills, tell you the globalists will lose in the end. I'm afraid I can't tell you that, chat.
Unleash me.
The way things keep going, the more leaning towards just saying, yeah, no, they're probably actually going to win because, you know, can you actually ever effectively stand against a, you know, multi-billion-dollar international company conglomerate thing, which is, it's not even just one company, it's, you know, dozens of them. Like, can you ever actually stand against that? Hard as you may try. You're gonna get one. Which means we have to send someone else to smack the crap out of this thing, so that we can get it to drop. Send all of our guys up and commence Operation Shitsman. Because that's what this game is. If you haven't noticed, smacking things around in melee combat is kind of like the most effective thing in this game. It works really rather well.
What is it?
Yeah, we can't banish that because it's not demonic. But what we can do is just keep smacking it until it drops the Battle Brother, which it will eventually. We should be able to do enough damage to it in one turn to allow that to happen. Maybe. I am perhaps a little less sure than I was previously. Crushing charge may help. But you can't do it because there's people in the way. God damn it.
At your command.
None of my other guys have stun grenades. Damn it. Okay, we're just going to have to go and do the hitting thing normally then. Yes, chat, I am afraid that this is the wrong channel for white pills. I mean, on the plus side, I suppose I can white pill you by saying, let's talk about things which are fun, like, you know, gardening and things like that. Like, chat, remember that food shortages, which are just a conspiracy theory, even though they are totally coming, and also the energy shortage, which is a conspiracy theory that is coming. You can plan for these things. So, keep in mind, the UK has, like, officially announced that there is going to be fuel shortages in the winter this year. They're probably going to be rolling blackouts, because of course there are. So remember, you can plan for this by getting yourself some wonderful wood-burning stoves or something like that. So remember, if you're in a location or in a way where you could acquire for yourself a wonderful little log-burning stove or a coal-burning fireplace, make sure that you get that stuff installed so that you can make use of that in the coming days. Even though the UK has, in not very long ago, there was a case where someone had a fire as a result of a wood-burning stove, and they were basically like, no, don't have wood-burning stoves, how dare you, So it does make me wonder if they're going to try to, there we go, let's execute a dreadnought, because it's epic. It does make me wonder if they're going to try to pass some sort of legislation that forbids people from owning wood-burning stoves or makes it more difficult for people to own them. But you can definitely stock up and start getting that to be a thing in your property, which will allow you to stay nice and warm and snuggly-buggly throughout the winter. Other than that, I would recommend that you begin planting your food forests and generally getting your organic gardening going if you are able to. Keep in mind, total self-sufficiency off of your own land is not impossible, but it is certainly a difficult thing to achieve. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try and aim for it. You don't necessarily have to be self-sufficient in everything in life, but being self-sufficient in even one or two things, or at least less reliant on other things, is only going to be beneficial. For example, if you live even in quite a small flat arrangement or something like that, there is nothing to stop you having a small herb garden on your windowsill, which means that you will not have to purchase herbs from a supermarket. That is a fairly easy way of achieving some degree of self-sufficiency for when things like this begin to go tits up, which they will. You see, you can do little things like that. Otherwise, you can take up some form of gardening. Remember, container gardening in pots and things like that is all fairly easy to achieve. You just have to get your pot, get some compost, put that inside it. You can grow yourself some things like tomatoes. You can grow staples like onions and potatoes. Potatoes are really easy to grow. You literally go to a shop, buy a bag of potatoes, and put them in the ground. And then you will have potatoes later, because that's how they work. They just grow into plants, and you just pull them out the ground. They're wonderful things. You can also grow yourself some onions. Onions are really quite a wonderful little thing. You just keep them in the bag that you get them from the shop, wait until they start growing green things out of them. You peel them down until you get to the green bits. There's normally going to be 2 or 3 plugs of them. You do the same thing, put them in the ground, and you get more onions. Obviously, you want to do this sort of stuff throughout the summer months rather than trying to do it throughout winter. But if you do it inside, you can actually make those things work within the winter. So you see, you've just got to work around that. other good things that you can do which are fairly non-fussy and enjoy nutritious.
Instructed.
And they come back year after year, so if you can get a
Nice.
pot full of
Once
them,
I
you just have to
begin the
remember,
ritual, you must
water
keep
them
the
quite a
demon
lot,
force at
keep
bay.
their
If I
little
fall, then
strawberry
all
feet
is
wet,
lost.
and they will give you the berries for years at a time.
Yeah.
So you see, there's plenty of things that you can do. These are all wonderful little white pill pieces of advice. Even though they come out of the black pill of knowing that there's going to be incredibly hard times ahead, and that these are all things which are being enforced on you from above because they are frankly not organic in nature, and it's very obvious to see that they are not organic in nature. That doesn't mean that you can't survive and potentially even thrive through such things.
Full wounded.
And also keep in mind that growing yourself some
Your command.
growing yourself your wonderful little organic fruits and vegetables and whatnot is also very good for you mentally as well. It's all very good for your mental health, doing all that sort of stuff.
Feel the infection.
So go with that, chat. Acquire for yourself your wonderful, delicious foods that you can grow. Other than that, you will probably have to attempt to find some way of securing your property, so make sure that your walls and your fences are all in good condition and good repair. Make sure that you have means of defending your property. But the more important thing that you can do with regards to that is do community building exercises. Encourage people in your local area to take part in things like growing of food. Get to know your neighbours, because, you know, good strong fences, good strong walls, knowing your neighbours and getting them on board with the growing of the foods. You don't even have to phrase it as, hey, this is actually something that is being forced upon you from organisations like the WEF. You can just tell them, hey, this is really good for you, you get free food out of it, it's all organic and all very healthy for you and all that sort of stuff. There are plenty of virtues that you can sing in the direction of that as a hobby. Just bring as many people on board as you can, make sure they're in your local area, make sure you're that nice guy that people know that helps them out and whatnot, and gives them all of the advice regarding these sorts of topics, and you will find that everything just kind of flows from there. After a fashion, anyway.
This one will fall. Blessed hollow arms.
When people start sustaining themselves in hard time, the government will say you can't do that, you should pay us for that, you have a license for those veggies.
For the Emperor.
Unfortunately, yes, that will probably be a thing that ends up happening, because of course it will. But it becomes very difficult, but at that point it becomes very difficult for people to fail to recognize that you're basically then in a totalitarian hellscape. When the government starts being like, hey, you know that flower pot that you've got that's got stuff in it that isn't just flowers? Well, screw you, get rid of them.
I am the Emperor's fury.
You know, you sort of, if things like that start happening, you begin being able to get other people on board fairly easily. And it also actually really helps people to notice the bullshit that's happening. You can just overwatch if that thing tries to move to hit some people.
Defensive action. I feel the rot at my feet. This place seethes with rot. Behold my wrath. Foul Hadassah approaches.
Then you've got a garden and a mole turns it upside down. You can't just hit the exit button for that animal because getting caught might cost you 30,000. Really, are moles a protected species wherever you are, so that you can't just remove moles from your territory? That's a little unusual. I wouldn't say surprising or not surprising because,
Yes, Commander.
well, there's some very unusual laws regarding certain animals.
Standing ready. With me, my brother.
But yes, that is another thing that you can do if your property has, if you are growing food on your property, if you can find some way of getting animals that are technically endangered on your property, or plants that are technically endangered on your property, that is a very, very good way of ensuring that it becomes a lot more difficult for governments to come in and start taking your
Yes,
stuff.
Commander.
Because in order for them to get in and start taking your stuff, they have to necessarily begin screwing with animals which are protected or plants which are protected, which just makes it a lot more difficult for them to do
I
stuff.
will fire when ready.
You've got bats too, which are tasty. Oh,
Actual
oh,
service.
I'd be careful with that one, chat, knowing what's been happening over the last couple of years.
I am
I'd be careful eating those bats if I were you. And another thing to also keep in mind is some bats are protected as well, so got to be careful if you want to start harvesting the flying rats. And I personally wouldn't recommend harvesting flying rats as it is because, well, they are just flying rodents.
At once, Commander.
God damn it, will you stop hitting the Inquisitor with stupid AoE attacks? We need our Inquisitor to be alive for this mission to work. There's one thing that I find a little annoying about this game, is sometimes they do have an annoying habit of sometimes just, like, focusing the Inquisitor that needs to die to stop the ritual, which makes complete sense, but it is just a little annoying.
Faster. Faster.
There appears to be a very large explosion coming our way. We should probably do something about that. Doesn't matter, it's just a little Overwatch fire. You'll be fine.
What resists my will? Praise the Emperor.
Go and commence the shit smacking. That's good. Right. Now we need to get... Right. He's got one action point. If we take 2 action points to kill, or to knock this guy down, we can execute him for 1 extra action point. Which means everyone will be able to do more stuff. Confirm that. That guy will go down. Execute this guy with this dude, because we want more action points. Those action points are always great.
I am the wrath of Xiphos.
Right.
Lotus.
You, Apothecary, I don't want you standing there, because if you stand there, the Inquisitor might get hit by something. You need to kind of go and hide for a while, because your HP is kind of low. So, go over there, feed yourself, you'll be fine.
I am here to serve.
Right, Chaplain. Problem is, we've got these 2 Terminators over here, which is a nuisance.
Standing ready.
And we have no stratagems for extra action points, so we need to play this quite carefully.
I am here to serve.
Gotta play around this as best we can. You need to get out the range of that explosion. I just want more stuff between the Inquisitor and those two Terminators. All they have to do is decide to hit the wrong target, or the right target as the case may be. And then we could be in for some trouble. We can do some damage this way. And let's see, you have 3 action points. You won't be able to get an execution on this guy, but you might be able to kill him. Wow, those guys are hitting hard.
Strong we shall stand.
Damn, I was hoping we could get a kill there. If he moves, then we can get the kill. You've got 2 action points. Ooh, you might be okay. Okay, right. Aegis up.
My focus
Big armor.
fails me.
And move towards that thing to try to distract it. I'm sorry, what? I was not aware that that was an ability that thing had. And that means our Inquisitor will actually die next turn.
I am the Inquisition. I will not fail.
It'd be wonderful if you wouldn't fail. Because if you do, then that will actually be the first mission that I've failed throughout this entire playthrough. And I'd rather you not do that, if you don't mind, Inquisitor. We can heal her, so it should be okay. Maybe. Maybe. Nope.
The Inquisitor's life signs are critical.
Wow.
Withdraw immediately. We cannot
That was
afford to lose
that was
her now.
surprisingly difficult, actually, all things considered. There was a real
risk of fatality for human
risk of
She's dead
things
if she
going
stays
wrong.
down there.
It just
Do
came
it
out.
now.
Things were too
Initiating protocol
spaced
immediately.
out for us to deal with them all effectively. It's rather disappointing. Oh well. Oh well, you have to fail sometimes. So, we will do probably another mission and see where we go from thence. It's rather annoying, these Inquisitor missions. I really try to avoid them as much as I can, because the problem is the Inquisitor is just so goddamn squishy in these games, like, compared to all of your guys, who all are obviously covered in Terminator armor. So unsurprisingly, they tend to not die very easily. And then you get your Inquisitor coming in with her teeny tiny little health bar and like barely any armor, and it's like, why are you here exactly? And can we not maybe get someone, you know, a little less shit from Titan to do these sorts of things?
Critical warning. Gun batteries malfunctioning. Evidence of glitchling in...
Sound the alarm.
Glitchlings.
Another Nurgle menace. They exist.
How do we fight them?
We hunt them to the last.
Impossible. All servitors will be reassigned hunter-killer protocols.
Ah. Yeah, send some knights.
Our brothers can help Purge.
It'll be fine. On the plus side, even though the chaplain went down last mission, he's come back with some extra crit. That's always nice. Should probably start trying to repair certain bits of the ship. since we've got the excess servitors to do so now. And we could get ourselves another librarian as a reward for a mission. That one I think we're going to have to do because there's a lot of bloom stuff happening in that area. We've got to take another crack at that mission as well. We can do this. I'll probably just do this last mission and then wind the stream down because we've been going for a while now. And my cat is beginning to get shouty because it is nearly time for food. Which of course means that, you know, you have to shout about it. Because I wouldn't know what the time is otherwise. Yeah, we can win the game without doing servo skulls. Actually, no, we probably can't, because I use servo skulls quite a lot, actually. That's the thing that lets me use my buffs at range on my apothecary. So I actually quite enjoy having them around.
Daemons.
Do we have...
Gradient.
We do have a fresh apothecary. So we'll roll that. You don't want the Medicaid servo skull. We want the use your biomancy at any range servo skull, because that way we can buff dudes up. You have a fancy new storm shield, so we will give you that. You can keep the awesome hammer, I think. Make sure it is the one which I think it is. Yep, it's the one that gives you AP when you crit, because you need AP for everything in this game. Can we level this? Yes. Excellent. That will be very useful for whenever we next decide to fight a demon. Do we have anything that might be of more use for you? No, weapons does not cause stun. We definitely want weapons that cause stun. The stun is just so nice. My cat only had one, thought you had three. I have two cats. Brunel is no longer around. We have Bark, who is still here, and now we have Belle as well, who is a fat, fluffy lump.
Eruption site detected. The bloom spawn have infested this bastion.
Alright,
of
let's
the Underground
roll
Storage
through this mission, and then I will go and feed
The Plague
kittens.
Lord continues to taunt us with his detestable works. We must end it here.
Yes, one cat did die. It is unfortunate. That was months ago, and he was like 17 years old, so it's not exactly a surprise. Still sad, but that is the way of things. Alright, let's begin the advancement and the punching of chaos things.
Weapons ready. At your command.
Alright.
Time stone. With me, my brothers. Here.
Let's see if we can pop
Moving out.
this little pod of enemies over here. And if we do, we might then get our 3 action points back and be able to go and commence the murder. Yes, perfect.
Dolls, shall we play together?
Advance in my direction, filthy spawn of chaos.
to engage.
Yes, that's all wonderful and completely irrelevant. So,
Your command.
we're just gonna, you know, drop in on top of you and say hello.
Strength returns.
Hi guys, how are you? Possibly one of the most terrifying things that can happen. Just like, oh, there's a whole bunch of Terminators who have, like, just dropped in on top of us. Well, damn.
Crush them with might beyond reason.
Right, let's see if we can now begin stunning these dudes to death. Right, just gonna beat them down until they fall over. Perfect. Right, if you shoot him from there, that will take him down to a knee, which means some other dude can just smack him. He can't because he has no more action points. I don't want him to move. And maybe if the apothecary can... Ah, damn it, you can't run all the way around. That's a nuisance. Okay, you know what? Tank one hit from moving out of combat. It's fine, it doesn't matter. It's more important that we get the action point from executing, so that we can just power through this.
We are the hammer.
Right. You have one action point, and you've got your extra stuns. So get in there and use the extra stun. I really hate that whenever you move into combat range, they strike. The game says that it's like 25% chance. I don't believe them. It feels like 100% towards the end of the game, probably.
Taste my fury.
Damn it, he's gonna die before we get to stun him to death. Doesn't matter. It still results in the pod being cleared, so that's fine.
In triumph.
Alright, let's move up and deal with Bloomspawn, because it's fun. Hello, machine.
Prepare to engage.
Quite.
Ready to serve. Yeah, your orders?
Alright, if you move up a little bit, we can just teleport on top of these guys and do the same thing again. Having a librarian in your squad is really rather quite wonderful, because it lets you just keep doing this. Right, you can't be stunned to death, but you guys
Yes,
can.
Commander. Unleash
Right,
me.
you've still got 3 action points. These guys are probably going to die before we stun them to death, though.
Eldar.
We're having some very unfortunate encounters here. We're reaching a point where things are... Small, easy-to-hit guys are dying too quickly to stun them to death to get extra action points. And we're getting a lot of big things that can't be stunned to death. It's really rather annoying, actually.
What is your will?
This is one thing that does slightly annoy me about this game, is Terminators walking through fire take damage. It's like, I'm sorry, you're in Terminator armor. Fire doesn't do a goddamn thing to Terminator armor. But apparently it does in this game for some unknown reason. Probably best to not ask why.
The Emperor's vengeance.
should be able to kill this guy with one more attack. There we go. Perfect. Alright, let's go and smack some plants, I guess, because this is what this game is about. It's about killing plants a lot of the time. Yeah, we can safely ignore these guys, they're not relevant to anything.
Brothers, strike for the chapter.
That's another thing that's a little unusual about this game. It causes
I am here to serve.
somewhat a sense of dissonance in this game sometimes. That you basically find yourself looking at some enemies and being like, yeah, we can safely ignore that. And it's like, oh, hang on, these things are filthy followers of chaos. We shouldn't really be looking at them and thinking, yeah, we can just ignore that as a threat. Because that's not how it works, I'm afraid.
Orders.
I guess that's just one of those. I don't know if that falls into the category of what people refer to as ludonarrative dissonance, but it may very well be. Right, that's that dealt with.
Yeah. They shall not pass.
I'm sorry, did you just... you shall not pass? Because that's pretty cool.
One comes. I aim true. The enemy is wounded. 11.
Alright, technically all we have to do is go and kill the bloom spawn, which is over there. So we can actually completely safely ignore these demons and just outrun them. Which again, a bit of a weird choice from a narrative perspective, but it does actually make... mechanically it makes sense, lore-wise it does not make sense.
Moving swiftly.
Alright, heal up our frontliner. Big map. Yeah, some of the maps in this game are huge.
Ready to serve. I serve.
And this is why sort of having the teleportation style abilities can be very useful, because there's some maps like this one which you just kind of get on and you're just like, oh, for God's sake. The amount of running is a little absurd on some of them, but some of the smaller maps are sort of a bit better.
Taking position. Daemons.
Alright, can we pop that? Ugh, damn it. I was hoping we'd be able to see those guys. Nice! We get to execute a dreadnought again, which is always fun. Right, can we still do any teleportation? Yes, we can. Alright, let's do that. Ah, damn it, you don't have the willpower. But, you can give your willpower. Give all of your willpower to the librarian. All of it. Just fill his willpower bar. There we go. Now we can teleport wherever we want again. Haha, ha ha. This is why those abilities which allow you to transfer action points and willpower are just so goddamn important in a game like this. You teleported through a door. That was dumb. You landed on the wrong side of the door. Damn, okay. That just made this a whole lot harder than it should have been.
Position to engage, Commander.
I was not anticipating you arriving on that side of that door. Okay. That's fine, we can deal with this.
I'm here to serve.
Maybe. Right. 10.6 points.
The blood
God
of the
damn it.
Emperor flows through
Yeah, it's fine, we can make this work.
you. My blade is yours.
Maybe.
Fall.
Oh. I say we can make this work like I can make this work. We can make it work. Don't worry, we'll be fine. Maybe. Right. Yes, hit that. Get him down to 1 point.
Feel my wrath.
You hit him, get him down to 0. That's going to knock that thing out. Which means you can hit it again, so we can execute it.
Face me.
That will give everyone action points, which is what we need.
I am the Emperor's fury.
So now we need to GTFO from that area.
Praise
Although we
the
don't
Emperor.
really, because it's not actually going to be that much of a problem. Right, honour the chapter him, warp charge it. So our paladin, who's got the iron, which is extra stuns,
Unleash me.
can get around and we can stun this guy to death.
Blessed are arms.
This is how these sorts of encounters are supposed to go. Not these weird, horrendously fragmented things that result in you getting overwhelmed and killed. Right, you've got an extra action point from critting, 2 extra action points from critting.
Yes, Commander.
Right,
Your command.
you only had 2 extra action points, so let's move you to there, because we need you to get extra ones first. So execute that. There we go, everyone gets an action point. You get an action point, and you get an action point, and everything is fine. You've got 6 stuns, so... charge into it with extreme prejudice to begin getting the stuns on it.
Will. Standing ready.
You have a lot of action points, so move up and begin stunning it. Doesn't matter if it mutates, because we're going to stun it until we execute it, as we should.
Taste my fury.
Yep. I want to leave you with 1 action point, so your 2 action points allow you to close that gap.
At your command.
Right. Move you up, because we want everyone in this room to kill the Psyker guy there, who is our main objective. Or destroy... all of these things are technically our objective.
At your service.
And you can then move up, which will allow you to execute this, so we get more action points. Oh, you can't do that, damn. Well, god damn it. You can't execute Chaos Spawn, apparently. It has the same mechanic as that boss does. Okay, that changes things then. Right. We have to manage action points a little more carefully then.
What is your will? Yeah.
You have 3. You should be able to break this. Your weapon does extra damage to demonic, so use your last action point to kill it. Good.
Destroyed, Commander.
Right.
Ready to serve.
You can clear that gap.
Yes, Commander. Yes, Commander.
You can get in range to begin hitting that, but that won't actually benefit us in any way. Do it anyway, because why not? And you can get in there and begin hitting these things. Hopefully, if you get a crit, we can disable something. Good. We can disable your ability to cast spells. Haha! Perfect. See, that's some good turns. That's when things go right in this game, as opposed to the last match where things kind of went a little bit wrong. Things ended up sort of too spaced out in order for you to do a round like this, because this is... Enemy positioning in this game is so very important like this, because you have to be able to chain from one encounter to another like this, because that allows you to get this sort of repeated flow of action points, which is the thing that makes strategies work in this game, as opposed to this fragmented kind of one-on-one, you need to spread everyone out because of dumbass Inquisitor being a weak dumbass. You say they wanted XCOM looks but not difficulty. This is only not easy mode. This is normal mode of this game, so there is a hard mode available. So you can make it a lot more difficult in this. This is just sort of the normal difficulty. So you can definitely make it a lot more of a challenge, but that is really more just about having guys be kind of damage sponges, more so than anything else. It'll still make it a lot more of a challenge, because it means you can't necessarily clear out large numbers of guys with sort of critting abilities like this and do as much effectively action point spam.
Spawn threat eliminated. Return to the Edict for decontamination.
And then you just leave all of these chaos behind, which is fine, and not law-breaking in any way at all. There is no ludonarrative dissonance in that encounter whatsoever. But there you go, that's things working as it should, with the good flow of AP, as I was mentioning all of those long hours ago when we started, which you probably had no understanding of what it was, but that's things working as it should. And it's just wonderful when it does. Do I want any of these things? Not really. That is a level 3, that is quite good. Does have a fairly good crit chance. Yeah, you know what, we'll take that halberd. Why the hell not? Delightful. Anyway, chat, I do believe that since the time is now upon us, by which I mean it is time for me to go and feed my cats, that I will go and do that, for they are very important and must be attended. Hopefully you have enjoyed the experience that we have had, and I will see you, I guess, whenever I next see you. Hopefully it will be at some point when there can be a little bit more white-pilling stuff, as opposed to just leaving chat to sit and stew in its own black-pilled misery of how awful the world is going to be and how things are just becoming seemingly progressively worse. But don't worry, you always have the ability to improve your life. There is always something that you can do to make things better. Never fall into despair, and just, you know, do what you can do. And I suppose since we're in a 40k game, we can do something thematic and say, never forget, with faith in the Emperor, anything is possible, because the Emperor protects. Fare thee well, chat.